This short presentation will talk through some of the specifics of data collection in the CHEETAH trial. We will cover some of the essential principles of good data management. We will look at how we plan to double check the data you've collected on patients registered into CHEETAH by using something called an aggregate data register. And finally, we'll talk about how we will manage safety reporting in terms of the CHEETAH trial. Data collection on patients registered into CHEETAH will be collected on several paper documents: the paper CRF booklets, the CHEETAH operation sticker and the CHEETAH register. Ideally, data should be completed during or promptly after each assessment to ensure they're an accurate reflection of what actually happened at each time point, as over time it can become more difficult to identify what happened. Data collected on the paper CRFs should then be entered directly onto the REDCap database, again as soon as possible after the event. This will enable the trials team at BCTU to review the data in real time, and it also allows for functions such as report generation to work. And this will help you at sites with your patient identification prior to their 30-day follow-up visit. So we do strongly encourage you to enter that data as soon as possible after each assessment. Data clarification forms are essentially a list of queries which we've raised against the data that you've entered on the REDCap database. This might be because the data looks unusual or maybe added in error. Any forms that appear as due on our system will also be requested on a periodic basis. So we referred to double checking the data of patients registered into the CHEETAH trial. The way that we will do this is from data collected on the aggregate register data. And this is a screenshot of what the register itself looks like. So the aggregate register data is essentially a register provided in a booklet format by the trials team here at BCTU, and it's designed to collect the total numbers of abdominal operations performed each week at your sites. It provides us with a breakdown of how many patients did not meet the inclusion criteria for trial entry based on the level of contamination, the patient's age, and or the size of the incision. And finally, it provides us with a total number of patients that were registered into CHEETAH. The data should be collected and uploaded onto the REDCap database on a weekly basis for the trials team at BCTU to review. The aggregate register is to demonstrate there's been no selection bias, so patients have not been selectively registered into the trial. We should see the expected number of CHEETAH patients registered onto the database, and this should match the information that you've provided on the CHEETAH register. The aggregate data register should be completed on a weekly basis and uploaded onto REDCap. And the time points for collection should be midnight from the start date of collection to midnight to the end date of collection. You should take some time to consider who will be responsible for collating and uploading that aggregate data at your site. We do not want any expedited reporting of adverse events and serious adverse events. Whilst we anticipate deaths and we will collect this data via the CRFs, we will monitor this via the independent data monitoring committees, so there'll be no expedited reporting in CHEETAH. There'll be no SAE forms required in this trial. At the end of recruitment, so approximately 3 months from the date the last patient is recruited at each site, we'll collect data on any unexpected issues or any unintended consequences that may have been identified. But otherwise, again, there is no safety reporting required for CHEETAH.